In this translation of the Gospel of this day, they have deliberately maintained the word denarius for the simple reason that it was what was given in a dies, a day. The denarius was the wage for 1 day's work. And so this Gospel is kind of difficult for them to take in because they have done a full day's work and the last only 1 hour. By the way, the Old English LSD, pounds, shillings and pence, the D of that comes from this. I've told you before, but I'll say it again, what happened some years ago before the communist bloc yielded. It was in an underground prison somewhere in Russia, Moscow or somewhere, and they were, as was their wont, torturing a priest. Eventually, he died, I believe, but his wife also was caught. They had been spreading things secretly, and the authorities caught on to what was going on, literature. She also was put to the torture, and they were trying to get information as to who were their collaborators. Eventually, under torture, somebody asked her, "Why will you not speak?" And she answered, "He will not allow me to." Eventually, they were trying still to make her divulge, and she wouldn't. After one session, she was taken back to her cell, having not spoken, and this underground prison officer was carrying her because she couldn't manage to get there herself, and she felt some morsel of compassion in this man. And she came out with this in her pain: "May God reward you for this tenderness." That word, tenderness, melted something. Eventually, they were still trying to get information from her, and there was one torture which usually had its effect, but it meant having 4 strong men. He knew what they were about to do, this other one, and he wouldn't go along with it. But what could he do? The only language he knew was that of the underground prison. He got hold of his revolver and started to shoot against his fellow officers. Immediately they shot back, and she was caught in the crossfire. She knew she was dying. On the ground, in a pool of her blood, she said with her last breath, "I'm dying." And he, who by then also had been hit in the crossfire, this officer, said simply, as he too was dying, "Take me with you." And she, as she died, extended her bleeding hand, put it in his, and said, "Come." And they both died together. Every week I have to do with a suicide, directly or indirectly. What a difference. There's no need to die. Often they're young people. But I want to zoom into one specific thing today in the context of this day that we're celebrating, the fact that we're now in the countdown already to the Easter cycle. Because classically, Septuagesima in the full liturgy has also a harking back to our origin. The reading in the liturgy, the old liturgy, still there in the monastic world, of our origin, our creation and our fall, which is precisely the backdrop of Easter. Our fall and our consequent death. We forget that without Calvary, we had no hope. Now look further than Christianity. The planet without Calvary without the grace of baptism, without the revelation of what is in this life and in the beyond true and facing us all, is dark. Life without Christian grace is dark. Look around you. What do human beings do without Christian grace? As a culture, it goes wrong. Vastly, vastly wrong. Normally, Christian grace pacifies a culture and gives goodness. In the battle of life, the agony, in the classic sense of fight of which St. Paul is talking, there is precisely a serious effort involved. The fact that people dismiss how serious it is now, massively in culture, playing as though there was no risk whatsoever, means that actually the enemy of our soul has been victorious. He has managed to place some kind of spiritual morphine in the souls of Western Europe. Cancel the question. Let men not feel the pain of their state. Now, as I pointed out many times before, the issue is made much more simple for Old Nick by the fact that we are easily distracted and therefore not often in contact with ourselves. It's the great tool he has. Keep them buzzing, keep them out of their centre. Only 150 years ago it was not so. People were aware. Why? The night was the night. And stillness of night invites the soul to interiority, invites also to quality encounter. We've lost both. And people ask them this question, they ask themselves and each other, what of the beyond? And what of this short life? It's not asked in public often now, is it? Pleasure. Pleasure, pleasure. Well, voicing the pain of the human heart, we have these words from one of our greatest poets who precisely had to face death very early in life, 26, John Keats. He talks of the shadows. They faded, and forsooth, I wanted wings. And then he goes on to a question which concerns us all who are looking for pleasure. Oh folly! What is love? And where is it? And this one, which by the way is the centre of the attention of many professional men. And for that poor ambition, it springs from a man's little heart, short fever fit. Oh, he goes on, for an age so sheltered from annoy that I may never know how change the moons or hear the voice of busy common sense. By that he means the common feeling of what is important. In this run-up to Lent, we are faced with our fall. We are faced with the putting of it right. But in practice, we are also faced with this invitation to put the brakes on and to practice one thing in particular: vigilance. Vigilance. Looking where we're going, looking how we're spending time. In positive terms, says the Catechism, the battle against the possessive and dominating self requires vigilance, sobriety of heart. When Jesus insists on vigilance, he always relates it to himself, to his coming on the last day and every day. Today! He's coming today. He's coming now. He's coming in his word. Years ago, we were at the body of a monk who had died. We had watched him and he died. And in the open, whatever they had in the Trappist life, we watched him until he was put in the ground, and we would say psalms by him until he was put in the ground. In twos, we would go next to the body and hand on the psalter to the next two. This would go on throughout the night. And this man, on this particular occasion, was a holy monk. He felt that the discipline was being lost, and so he had this policy: I will make up for it, and I will be more austere than before. As a result, he shortened his life through severe penance. Father Canis. Eventually he died at 74. But there's more to it. The abbot, Dom Columkill, was a holy abbot. He cared for his monks, and he spent hours by him as he died, in hospital eventually. And we know from him what happened. He was lucid to the end and wanted his abbot to give him absolution yet again just before he closed his eyes in death. But one other thing which was unexpected: he knew the priesthood in him, and just as he was dying, he wanted his abbot to hold up his priestly hand and to give one last blessing over his community and the world with one last faint breath. And with that, he expired in his abbot's house. There was a goodness there. There was a goodness in the abbot. There was a goodness in Father Canis, with whom I worked. And that goodness carried on. There we were, watching one after the other all night. And we were 5 novices at the time, and one of them said to me, whispering, "Let's get something to eat from the kitchen." So we walked off and came back with 2 Kit Kats. So I confessed this the following Saturday morning to Dom Lawrence, who was eventually abbot himself, and mentioned that I'd been eating Kit Kat in the presence of the body of Father Canis. And it hit me, the goodness of that good Irish monk. With a twinkle in his eye, he just said, "You should have offered one to Father Canis." If only I'd realised there were some things in the Irish spirit and in the monastic life which are not made entirely of rules and rubrics, but of simple goodness and kindness, which I'm sure cancels a multitude of sins and opens pretty quickly the doors of heaven. Remember that, my friends, for time will come, and we will live either for the good or for the bad, leaving a memory of pain or bliss behind us. But one thing will not be forgotten. Were we kind? Did we leave healing where we went? Or were we a heavy cloud that caused pain wherever we went around? They faded, and forsooth, I wanted wings. Oh folly, what is love, and where is it? And for that poor ambition, it springs from a man's little heart's short fever fit. For poesy, no, she has not a joy, at least for me, so sweet as drowsy noons and evenings steeped in honeyed indolence. Oh, for an age
so sheltered from annoy, that I may never know how change the moons, or hear the voice of busy common sense. After the disclosure to dear Abbot Columkill, the echo oft hewn chasms neath a sigh, and what the mouth sounds not, the breast ill seals. The language of the heart that dares not cry, the unheld of what we are, its flow reveals. O happiness that held me for a while, wilt thou too now betake thee to the past? Will these that here in gentleness still smile upon this oft blocked road, now smile their last? Must I haul in this anchor once again, and drift so far away from what I am? The heart of man was made for unfelt pain, and he lives well that well hath walled this dam that holds the ocean of our sufferings, and keeps his sorrow for in sadder things.
Mater misericordiae,